Chapter 165 The Storm Girl. It's her? Shan Shenhe blurted out in surprise as he looked towards the woman heading for the entrance. On the other side, Bai Kangfeng was also stunned. Everyone among the rich and noble families knew who this lady was, but at the same time, none of them saw this coming. They simply did not think that this lady would get involved in this matter. Noises filled up the entire arena as everyone talked and asked one another questions, as they had not expected that the final challenger would be such a pretty lady. Almost everyone knew about this lady, but that was because her beauty had caused an uproar among the male students during the school opening ceremony. She was quickly acknowledged as one of the goddesses among the new female students. She became so famous so quickly that even someone like Mo Fan, who paid little to no attention to gossips, knew about this lady through his roommates, as they constantly talked about her. As the lady entered the arena, Mo Fan took a closer look at her. He then realized that everything he once heard about her was completely insufficient to describe her true beauty. Each and every single rumor he had heard was unable to describe her beauty. She was so elegant and graceful that she felt distant from any mortal's reach, which made her lethally attractive. The girls in the larger cities are indeed better. I am sure that someone will be willing to pay any cost in order to get married to a lady like this. Oh woo! Obviously, the spirit wolf was not someone who would enjoy the beauty of this lady. Its eyes were glowing green as they stared at her with deeply condensed wariness and hostility. Clearly, it also felt that this lady was not someone average like the puny pawns before her. So, you are Mu Nujiao? Asked Mo Fan, his tone filled with interest as he looked at her. The lady nodded slightly to Mo Fan's question and showed no other emotion but eagerness to fight. Right now, Mo Fan felt that this lady was indeed beautiful, but what he saw in her eyes was something as sharp as the tip of a knife, a true eagerness to fight. All of this suggested that this lady, called a goddess by the others, was not someone approachable. How about we make a deal? Mo Fan asked as he tried to keep his distance from Mu Nujiao, to prevent her from catching him off guard while they were talking, even though he believed that this lady would not do things like that. Confusion quickly arose in Mu Nujiao's eyes. What else could be talked about at this point? Originally, Mu Nujiao would not have gotten involved in this competition, but since this competition had progressed to this point, she could no longer stand aside and sit back while the resources of her school were being raided by someone else. You are the last person I have to challenge. As long as I defeat you, I will be able to obtain a huge sum of resources. I can feel that you are actually kind of strong. How about this? Even if you won, you only secured a pitiful portion of resources for your school, and if I win, I will be able to obtain all of the resources, said Mo Fan as his eyes shone brightly with hope. On the other hand, Mu Nujiao, who was also a very intelligent person, immediately realized Mo Fan's intentions. She felt funny upon realizing Mo Fan's motive and remained calm as she asked, "So what? You should know by now. How about I take 70% and you take 30? How's that?" replied Mo Fan, as if he was a cunning fox that had been dwelling in the field of business for many years. Upon hearing this, the expressions of those who heard Mo Fan's suggestion, which included Dean Xiao, the heads of the various schools, and teacher Ji Yu Han, were all extremely rich. Can you have more dignity and pride for yourself? Where was the Mo Fan that had fought against so many people with no fear? Where was the Mo Fan that said out loud proudly that he wanted to rob everyone of their resources? How can someone so ruthless like that turn into a sly and cunning merchant in just the blink of an eye? Mu Nujiao stood there as she felt angry and amused at the same time. Never had she come across someone like Mo Fan who was so shameless. It was as if his pride was eaten by stray dogs. So you are planning to give away 30% of what is supposed to be yours after such a long and tough battle, just like that? Mu Nujiao asked, as she stared at Mo Fan. Take it as a token of friendship. You are such a beautiful lady, and as a man that admires and appreciates all pretty and good things in this world, I wouldn't mind giving away a little portion of my gains, replied Mo Fan firmly. Then, what if I want 70%? Mu Nujiao asked. Mo Fan's mouth twitched upon her proposal. Damn. Why is this damn woman so greedy? I tried to be good to her by not trying to fight with her, and she is actually asking for more now? How dare she ask for even more now? Is she trying to force me to fight her? Stop wasting your time and saliva. Let us begin. All the while, all Mu Nujiao wanted was a fight. To be honest, the level of fighting in this competition was originally more than just boring to mages on the intermediate level like her, which naturally turned them off. Now, however, with Mo Fan, who wiped out the entire primary level new students, he successfully garnered the attention and interest of Mu Nujiao. And those who knew Mu Nujiao well enough had always described her as a person who looked like an angel, but deep within her was a hunger and thirst for battle. Shit! Damn woman! Cursed Mo Fan quietly as he felt the surging battle intent and the relentless elemental typhoon rising around Mu Nujiao. If it wasn't because her strength was even stronger than his, Mo Fan would not even have bothered trying to negotiate with her. What's so great about having a higher cultivation level? If you want to fight, then I will fight and burn you to a crisp. Hoo. The air within the arena was vacuumed away, and wild winds started blowing. With Mu Nujiao as the center of a jade-green wind star atlas, the raging airflow went on a rampage around the arena, sucking everything around the field up with it as it passed through everything. From just a tiny whirlwind, it turned into a huge whirlwind as tall as the stadium with a diameter of 2 meters. Wind disk tornado, whispered Mu Nujiao softly, yet seriously. Wind was supposed to be invisible, but after the tornado dragged up the sand, dust, and debris on the ground, it slowly formed a marvelous and gigantic body. The tornado twisted, spun around the arena and created an airflow flowing so fast that whenever the wind blew past the people, they felt that the wind was cutting them. As seconds passed, the tornado became stronger and stronger, and it became difficult to stand properly without being blown away and ending up being torn apart by the tornado. Shit! 50. I can only give you at most 50%. Mo Fan's voice could be heard coming faintly from the center of the storm, but gradually, his voice faded away. In Mu Nujiao's eyes, Mo Fan saw only sheer will and determination as she continued to control the wind disk tornado, which charged towards Mo Fan and his spirit wolf unstoppably. The dust flew all over the place as the storm continued to wail around the arena, blurring everyone's vision. Mu Nujiao seemed to become the one in control of everything within the arena. The tornado might have only a diameter of 2 meters, but if an average person stood within 10 meters of the tornado, the person would be dragged into it. Within 5 meters, perhaps a car would be dragged away easily as well. Mo Fan was incredibly unhappy. He had known that Mu Nujiao was a very strong opponent from the moment he first saw her. As he had expected, he had only formed 2 out of 3 parts of his lightning star atlas, and this woman has already completed casting her intermediate wind magic. Chapter 166 Thunder Attack. If his casting speed was slower than his opponent, the one who would die in a battle would be him if he insisted on trying to cast his spell. Thus, Mo Fan was driven into a situation where he had to give up forming his star atlas, and instead whistled towards his spirit wolf. The smart spirit wolf immediately understood Mo Fan's intentions and rushed towards Mo Fan at lightning speed. As soon as the wolf ran past Mo Fan, he quickly grabbed onto its long fur before pulling himself onto its back agilely. Run towards the center, far away from the tornado, shouted Mo Fan towards his summoned beast. Without slowing down, the wolf ran as ordered by Mo Fan while a dust storm approached them quickly from behind. If the spirit wolf ran a little bit slower, both the wolf and Mo Fan would be within 10 meters of the tornado, and their speed would decrease drastically as it drew them in. With Mo Fan on its back, the spirit wolf continued running away. Fortunately for them, the arena was huge enough, and they could only hope that they would be able to shake away the rampaging wind beast. Damn! Shouted Mo Fan in his heart as they finally arrived at the end of the arena after dashing away from the tornado. When he turned around and looked at the tornado that was still approaching them without any signs of stopping, he wanted to negotiate with Mu Nujiao again by giving her 70% of the resources, but she would not be able to hear it anymore due to the howling wind. Woo! The spirit wolf howled softly towards Mo Fan, signaling him to hide at the corner of the barrier. Fast enough that Mo Fan couldn't react in time, the wolf had already turned around and stared at the approaching tornado with its green eyes. Hoo! 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 The wolf raised its head and shot out 3 flying wind sand breaths towards the tornado. Its flying wind sand breath was a move that utilized the power of wind, and the wolf wanted to use its own wind magic to neutralize the wind disk tornado. However, the spirit wolf's magic was not strong enough to withstand an intermediate level wind magic. It was just like a kindergartner trying to shove an adult away, which would do barely anything towards the adult. Ah woo! Upon realizing that what it had done was in vain, the spirit wolf let out a long howl. And before Mo Fan could give the wolf any other orders, the wolf had already charged straight towards the tornado, attempting to withstand the vortex with its own body. "Spirit wolf," murmured the stunned Mo Fan. "Is the wolf trying to use its body to fight against the wind disk tornado?" Mo Fan clearly remembered that day where the berserk one-eyed wolf that was on the same level with a spirit wolf failed to take on an intermediate level magic, and now, even if spirit wolf survived, it would also have its bones all shattered into pieces after ramming into the tornado. Within the dust storm, the spirit wolf could not be seen clearly anymore. All that was left was just a black figure representing the wolf moving faster and faster. In the end, Mo Fan clearly saw the figure of his wolf being hurled towards the center of the tornado. His spirit wolf obviously was sent into the air after it collided with the tornado. Fortunately, what the wolf did was not in vain, as the tornado finally stopped moving forward and the power of the wind also decreased after it rammed into it. At the back of the storm, it was barely a second before Mu Nujiao noticed the spirit wolf that was struggling in the air. Right after the entire tornado dispersed, the summoned beast fell towards the ground from 30 meters up in the air. The spirit wolf had already lost its balance. It might land head first, which could be instantly lethal. Up, Mu Nujiao raised her hands, formed a gust of wind that buoyed the spirit wolf slightly, slowing down the wolf's plummet and saving it from death. However, when the wolf landed on the ground, it still suffered a heavy injury which completely immobilized it. The wind disk tornado appeared in an instant, and disappeared in split seconds as well. At the far end of the barrier, Mo Fan let out a relieved breath as soon as he saw the spirit wolf was saved from death. "Thank you for your mercy, but I will not surrender without a fight," shouted Mo Fan as he stared at Mu Nujiao, who was far away with a sharp gaze. Ever since the beginning, Mo Fan has deemed this lady to be a very dangerous opponent, and he was right. The spirit wolf has risked itself, squeezed out its remaining strength to neutralize the attack of its owner's opponent. Mo Fan felt that he must not let down his loyal summoned beast. "Show me your true strength," said Mu Nujiao. Mo Fan quickly returned his summoned beast back into the dimensional space so it could rest and get healed up. After all, the wolf has been fighting for him for a very long time, and this woman had to be dealt with by himself personally. At the same time, without any delay or hesitation, Mu Nujiao started forming another star atlas, clearly visible from the countless star paths appearing around her. "Not on my watch," shouted Mo Fan, who obviously did not want his opponent to have the chance to cast her spell. He raised his hand, and a violet star path was formed in an instant. Violet lightning started forming on top of Mo Fan's head. With a grasp and a hurl, the violet lightning shot straight across the arena and flew straight towards Mu Nujiao, who was halfway forming her star atlas. Upon seeing the incoming lightning, Mu Nujiao inevitably had to avoid the attack, and as a result, the spell she was channeling was disrupted. Mu Nujiao had not seen that coming. She thought he would fight her with his own intermediate magic. Instead, her opponent cancelled her spell channeling by using a basic level spell, which surprisingly proved to be quite efficient. The star paths quickly formed a lightning star atlas, pumping energy into his surroundings and infusing the energy right into Mo Fan. With the energy surging within him, his hair standing up, lightning sparked around his body. With a shout, Mo Fan pointed his finger towards the skies, manipulating the raging lightning into coming down from the skies and turning them into a horrifying lightning bolt. An intermediate tier lightning magic was formed, and thunderclouds appeared on the top of Mu Nujiao. Wah! With an ear-piercing noise shrieking around the arena, the thundercloud gained the attention of everyone. Violet lightning came rushing down from the clouds, tearing the area apart with relentless power, and struck towards Mu Nujiao mercilessly. Unlike the wind disk tornado, which first pumped out all the air around it to form a tornado before going on a rampage, the lightning bolt was more straightforward. It just absorbed enough energy before it rained down from the skies. Thus, the lightning bolt might not be able to sweep across the surroundings like the wind disk tornado could, but once the lightning bolt struck someone precisely, there would be a very high chance that the person would die on the spot under its horrendous power. Chapter 167 Forest of Kun Gao. The reason why the thunderclap was so strong was that it could destroy anything in a blink of an eye without leaving any traces behind, which was also why teacher Ji Yu Han had acted at once even when Bai Kang Feng had his magic equipment. In truth, the intermediate-level lightning magic, thunderclap, was too ruthless. Even with the magic equipment, Bai Kangfeng would still probably be crushed in an instant. Thus, even when Bai Kangfeng was confident that he could repel Mo Fan's attack, teacher Ji Yu Han felt that there was no reason for him to risk being derelict of his duty. And now, Mu Nujiao was faced with the same thing experienced by Bai Kangfeng. As the thunderclap struck, one would suffer extreme injuries, if not death, if he or she failed to evade the devastating attack. It was also insufficient to possess defensive magic equipment, as the thunderclap might just shatter the magic equipment along with its owner. But this time, Ji Yu Han stood aside calmly. He had already seen Mu Nujiao's defensive measures. Besides, from the perception of Ji Yu Han, Mu Nujiao was entirely out of that idiot Bai Kangfeng's league. Wind trail drifting shadow. Mu Nujiao, who was still moving slowly, suddenly shifted swiftly as soon as the thunderous storm shrouded the air above her. In the midst of the raging lightning, her curvaceous body could be seen moving agilely on the set-up wind trails, her clothes dancing around her from her rapid movement. The raging lightning went on a rampage on the arena, drilling out a huge hole on the ground with relentless power. But Mu Nujiao had already traveled 10 meters away from the spot. If the Lightning Star Atlas was completed before the Star Trail was released, the thunderclap would definitely be an attack that could not be evaded. Too bad for Mo Fan, Mu Nujiao has already prepared herself for this attack, praised Ji Yu Han in his heart as he nodded his appreciation. Ruthless and swift, that was the style of intermediate lightning magic. And judging from what Mu Nujiao had pulled off, she obviously had a certain amount of understanding of the intermediate lightning magic, and so she set up her wind trails long ago. With that, all she had to do was wait until Mo Fan completed his spell and quickly shift her position away from his attack as soon as the thunderous cloud took shape. If she had moved slightly earlier, he would have been able to lock onto her again, and if she was too slow, the speed of her wind would be no match for the lightning. Hence, she chose a very precise moment and made use of her primary magic to evade Mo Fan's intermediate thunderclap. What an incredible woman! She actually dodged the thunderclap, thought the now shocked Mo Fan. Now, he had finally met a strong mage, and unlike those students who knew nothing more than just studying the moves and applying their knowledge without creativity and flexibility, Mu Nujiao had obviously been showered with countless battles. Those battles granted her quite a bit of knowledge on the intermediate tier magics. After all, being able to grasp a hold on the timing and location of the final point of the thunderclap was not something just anyone could do. Seems like you were going to lose. Using the wind trails she had cast, Mu Nujiao now stood at a place where Mo Fan's attacks could not reach. This time, she would not give Mo Fan even the slightest chance to cast another thunderclap. Really? If you use the wind disc tornado again, I will have already evaded it long before it reaches me, said Mo Fan as he looked at her. The wind disc tornado could cover a very huge area, but its speed was relatively slow. Hence, during the time it traveled from one end to the other of the arena, Mo Fan would have enough time to take measures against the tornado. Have I ever said that I was going to use any wind element magic? Replied Mu Nujiao as a bright and sweet smile blossomed on her face. The smile was so beautiful, but Mo Fan only felt immense danger coming from it. Forest of Kun Gao. Green star trails that resembled twisted vines appeared under the feet of Mu Nujiao. They quickly formed into a symbol that resembled nature, surging with condensed life force. She called out the name of her spell as if she was reading out a long-forgotten spell while controlling the spirits of nature that danced around the nature totem. With a finger flick, she turned the enormous life force into an unattractive seed shrouded in green light. The seed dropped to the ground not far away from Mo Fan. In just an instant, everything changed when the seed burrowed into the floor. Something was emerging from the floor, and before Mo Fan could react, countless strange-looking trees, vines, and roots came charging out from the floor. They pushed aside the arena floor around them, and what was even more terrifying was that they all matured at a visible speed. Some even twined together before they spawned even more seeds that quickly ripped open into even more branches and vines, while some continued spreading across their surroundings before they formed an area filled with only plants. A few seconds ago, this area was filled with sand, rocks, and other debris. But now, this area was invaded by these plants that gave off a presence like a massive monster invading a place in search of something. Clearly, these plants possessed the ability to detect life force. They sensed Mo Fan and circled around him as they grew unbridledly. Whenever Mo Fan ran away, these plants would not stop him, but instead, they all quickly grew into a thick vine forest that slowly cut off his path. Chapter 168 You Lost. This Mu Nujiao is so strong, exclaimed the girl with the ponytail in awe and asked again, Mo Fan is going to lose, right? The forest of Kun's jail is practically impossible to escape from. But that's not what I think, disagreed Xu Jiaoting with a shake of his head. Perhaps your friend still has some trick up in his sleeves? Is that possible? Asked the girl again. However, Xu Jiaoting did not answer her question and merely stared closely at the jungle that grew around Mo Fan like a prison. So, marvelous. Yeah, this goddess is about to defeat this evil demon. We almost lost all our resources because of him. From now on, she will be my one and only goddess. Upon seeing this, all the new students immediately felt immense gratitude and admiration for Mu Nujiao. If not for her, their resources would have been stolen by Mo Fan. A lady who was extremely beautiful yet incapable of anything would only bring disaster, but a lady who is pretty and very capable at the same time would be taken as a kind, powerful, and strong goddess that would rescue her people from crisis. When everything calmed down after the prison made of plant life fully emerged, Mu Nujiao clamped her fist and walked slowly towards the prison. She too, firmly believed that Mo Fan would not be able to turn the situation around. Mo Fan has already depleted all his summoner abilities, and if he had an even stronger summoned beast, he would have brought it out long ago. At this time, not even his lightning magic would be able to help him escape from the imprisonment of the forest of Kun. He had lost the fight. In just a moment of time, Mu Nujiao had drawn close to the border of the forest of Kun. The forest of Kun possessed no offensive capabilities, so Mu Nujiao would have to get close enough and ask Mo Fan to surrender. If Mo Fan was stubborn, she would not mind giving him a tornado and letting him have a taste of the excitement of jumping down from a tall building without any safety measures. Through the tiny gaps in the plants, she started searching for the trapped Mo Fan. To her dismay, just when she was about to say something, she shockingly discovered that there was no sign of Mo Fan at all. How? Shock immediately replaced Mu Nujiao's confidence. Be it any type of position-shifting skills, no one would easily escape from the imprisonment of the forest of Kun. These plants tracked the target person by sensing the person's life force as they grew. Thus, even if it was wind trail, earth burrow, or other magic equipment, no one would be able to escape easily. This was also why Mu Nujiao was confident that Mo Fan could not escape, which led her to walk up to where she was now standing confidently. She had not expected that Mo Fan would not be found within the jail made up of countless plants. Impossible, absolutely impossible, you lost, said a voice with a very deep tone from the forest on the other side. Extremely shocked, Mu Nujiao looked in that direction, only to find Mo Fan walking out from the shadows of the plants. He did not walk out from the forest, but from the shadows of the plants. Even with her incredibly strong senses, Mo Fan still managed to walk away unscathed by moving within the shadows. In truth, no one would be able to escape from the imprisonment of the forest of Kun, except when it came to the shadow element magic. With all the tall trees, thick vines, and large amount of leaves, shadows were everywhere around the forest of Kun. This has provided a huge area for shadow element mages to roam around freely. Be it the saturated vines or branches, none of them would be able to trap a shadow that could move around freely. Shadow element. How is it possible that you possess magics of the shadow element? Exclaimed Mu Nujiao, nearly falling as she stared at him in disbelief. Right now, she dared not move at all, not to mention casting any more spells. Mo Fan was dangerously close to her, and he even had a slithering lightning serpent in his hand. At this range, there would be no time for her to react, or even use any magic equipment. This has nothing to do with you. Anyhow, you have already lost this battle, stated Mo Fan, as the lightning serpent in his hand grew more and more ferocious, and seemed like it would strike any time. Anger rose in Mu Nujiao's eyes. Shadow element, is he trying to defy everything I know about magic? This man clearly displayed both summoning and lightning element magic. So why is there a third element's power? Is he an advanced mage? Impossible, definitely impossible. No one could reach the advanced level at such a young age, not even those from the magic court. With no options left, Mu Nujiao stood there as she bit her lips. Before she gave up, she briefly thought of continuing to fight this guy with her magic equipment, but in the end she discarded that foolish idea.